We're back. We are back. Yes, we're back. Heading down here to the truck. Get my phone holder. We're going to do some reading. Very gorgeous, gorgeous yom. Very gorgeous yom. All right. Let's see, let's see, let's see. Okay, let me get my holder. All right, let me do this. Set you all down for a minute. Put her down there like so. All right. Let me put you all here. Like so. And we're in there. All right. Let's start heading back. You guys can see all these stones just strewn all over the place. As I was sharing with the people yesterday, this is all lava rocks, and that is the dormant mountain, the dormant volcano over there in the distance. But all of these are lava rocks. All right. Let's see how Abba Yahuwah's gonna work this out. Okay. Like I said, I'm over here, got my eyes to the ground here, making sure I'm not gonna walk up on any critter. All right. Back to our observation site. Let's see here. Time for another marking? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. All right. Okay. Get myself situated. Okay. Let's see. There was something that I wanted to read. And as we're doing this here, let me go and look into this. All right. Book of Enoch, chapter 72, verse 31. And on that day the sun rises from the portal and sets in the west, turns to the east. Let me back up because I need to find out what portal it is here. Verse 29, 72. And the sun has returned to enter into the second portal in the east and return to those of his divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, or 30 bakor, rising and setting. And on that day the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. And on that day the sun rises from that portal, from the second portal, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third portal. Yep, that's what I was saying earlier, so I was correct. I recall it properly. So right now the sun is in the third portal. And it says, it returns and sets in the east and rises in the west, or excuse me, I said that wrong. Sets in the west and returns to the east and rises in the third portal for 31 bakors, or sunrises, and sets in the west of the Shama. On that day the night decreases to the amount of 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. And the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as its days, 364. So right now it's in the third portal, and it's going to be in the third portal for 31 sunrises. So today is the 30th sunrise of the 12th month. 30th sunrise of the 12th month. We have one more sunrise to go, Mishpachah. And it's at that moment, as it hits the 31st day, that we're at that junction where the 31st day is entering into the first day of the year, and it would be in the fourth portal. And this is where we get at the very beginning. 72, chapter 72, verse 5, the chariot on the wheels that he, the Shamash, the sun, ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the Shama and returns due the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the Shama. In this way he rises in the first month in the great portal, that is, the fourth, those of the 6 portals in the east. And in the fourth portal from the sunrise in the first month, there are 12 window openings. From there proceeds a flame when they're opened in their season. So those 12 window openings are not the same as the 6 portals. These 12 window openings are to the left and to the right of these window portals for the sun. And when the sun rises in the heaven, he comes out through that fourth portal for 30 sunrises in succession. That's very interesting. It says in succession. Let me see if it says anything else here about the in succession. Let's see. Returns, sets the rest in the portal, 31 days. Rises from the east, 31 days. Rises from the east, 31 days. Rises from the east, 31 days. 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31. That is the only one that says succession. All right, let's see who's on here. Shalom, Cody Elaine. Great to see you here. Aki Pete Rodriguez. out there in New York, New York. All right. Well, hello, everyone. We got rid of that green screen that I couldn't figure out. Let's see. Nope, it's not time to mark yet. Okay. So I'm just doing a little reading here. So I'm going to read about, we're going to go into chapter 73 of the book of Enoch, and we're going to read a little bit. Story time. Story time. You guys ready? Okay. So I'm going to be reading out of the Complete Apocrypha. All right. For those of you who might be wondering where am I reading and what am I reading from, this is what I'm reading from. And we're reading out of the book of Enoch, also known as Enoch. All right. Chapter 73. And after this, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary. That is the name of the YAH, the moon. And her circumference is like the circumference of the Shama, and her chariot in which she rides, or in that she rides, is driven by the wind. And the light is given to her in a definite measure. And her rising and setting changes every month. And her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniform, that is to mean full, it amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun. And so she rises. And her first phase in the, and her first phase in the east comes out on the 30th morning. 30th morning. And on that day, she becomes visible and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day, together with the sun in the portal where she rises. And 1/2 of her goes out by a 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty, without light. That is with the exception of the 1/7 part of it. So this would be that little sliver that people see, that people like to mistakenly call the new moon. Verse 5, and on 1/2 of her goes out in the 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty, without light, with the exception of the 1 part, that is the 14th part of her light. Excuse me. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part of the half thereof. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the half of 1 part of the light. In that night, in the beginning of her morning, or Bakor, in the commencement of the lunar day, notice, in the commencement of a lunar day, the beginning of a lunar day, the moon sets with the sun and is invisible that night with the 14th part and the half of 1 of them. And she rises on that day with exactly a 7th part and comes out and recedes from the rising of the sun. And in her remaining days, she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. So this means that she is waxing, right? Not waning. For those of you who don't know the difference between the waxing and the waning of the moon, waxing is it's getting brighter, and then the waning is after it's full, it starts to diminish. So that's the waning. Chapter 74. I also saw another course, a law for her, and how according to the law she performs her monthly revolution. And all these YAH, the set-apart messenger, who is the leader of them all, showed to me and their positions, and I wrote them down of their positions as it was shown to me to them. And I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of their lights until the 15th day were accomplished. In single 7th part she accomplishes all her light in the east, and in the single 7th part accomplished all her darkness in the west. And in certain months she alters her settings, and in certain months she pursues her own peculiar course. Notice here in verse 4, it talks about how the moon And in certain months, she alters her setting. She alters her setting. So she alters where she goes down. And in certain months, she pursues her own peculiar course. So like as if she's chasing her tail. Number 5. In 2 months, the moon sets with the sun. In those 2 middle portals, the third and the fourth portal. And she goes out for 7 days and turns about and returns again through the portal where the sun rises and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes from the sun, and in 8 days she enters the 6th portal from there where the sun goes out. And when the sun goes out from the 4th portal, she goes out for 7 days until she goes out from the 5th and turns back again in 7 days into the 4th portal. So the sun never goes backwards into another portal until it gets to what we call the Takufa. The Takufa, the turning of the seasons. The Takufas happen every 3 months. So you have the first one, what we call the spring equinox. And then you have the next one, which is the summer solstice. And then you have the next one after that, which is the fall equinox. And then you have the other one after that, which is the winter solstice. Now, the moon, we're told here, it comes out of the 4th portal with the sun. And it does that for 7 days, but then it returns back to the 5th portal while the sun is still in the 4th portal. Because, you know, the sun rises in each portal for 30 days. And then that one extra 31st day every 3 months is because it's turning. It's going into another season. Let's continue. Verse 8. And she returns again in 7 days into the 4th portal. From there, the sun goes out. So I saw their position, how the moon rose and set in those days. So let me read that again. Let me start at verse 4. And in certain months she alters her settings, and in certain months she pursues her own peculiar course. In 2 months the moon sets with the sun. In those 2 middle portals, the 3rd and the 4th, she goes out for 7 days and turns about and returns again through the portal where the sun rises and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes, that is to digress, from the sun, and in 8 days enters the 6th portal. From there where the sun goes out. And when the sun goes out from the 4th portal, she goes out 7 days until she goes out from the 5th portal and turns back again in 7 days into the 4th portal. So for 14 days, she makes this move and accomplishes her light. And she recedes and enters into the 1st portal for 8 days. So imagine seeing from the horizon the sun, and I got to make another mark here. Give me a second. So you know how we're getting ready to enter into the first day of the year, and the sun, we're told in Enoch chapter 72, that the sun goes out in 30 successional days, rising from the 4th portal. During that same time, while the sun is going through those 30 days of the 4th portal, the moon is coming up out of the 4th portal and then going to the 3rd portal and then returning to the 5th portal and then shooting to the 1st portal. I mean, this thing is all over the place. That's very interesting. Verse 9. So I saw their positions, how the moon rose and how the sun set in those days. And if 5 years are added together, now it's talking about the sun and not the moon. And if 5 years are added together, the sun has an overplus of 30 days. And all the days that accrue to it for one of those 5 years, when they are full to the amount of 364 days. And the overplus of the sun and the stars amounts to 6 days in 5 years. So we've talked about this before, where we know that the sun has a 365 and a quarter cycle, okay? There's 365 days in a sun cycle, but we're only told to keep a 364-day count. Well, in 5 years, because of this day and a quarter extra every year, in 5 years, it's going to amount to 6 days. Okay, in 5 years, it's going to be 6 days extra of days that the sun has traveled. Now, it goes on and says, and the moon falls behind the sun and the stars to the number of 30 days. That number of 30 days happens in 3 years. Because remember, the sun has a 364-day count, the moon has a 354-day count, but yet we still have a 365-day solar cycle. This is where those 6 extra days happen in 5 years. So in 3 years, the sun equates to 30 days that the moon needs to catch up. And this is why you see people who do the Hillel 2 calendar. For those of you who have studied calendars, if you follow the moon, you're going to find out every year you're going to be 10 days short. Come the 3rd year, you're going to be 30 days short. So what did the Jewish people do? They gave themselves a leap month. Where did they learn this leap month from? They learned it from the Babylonians. And so every 3 years, they have to accommodate, to catch up with the sun, they have to add a 13th month. This is where you're finding out, for those of you who've been listening to these people talking about the back of a turtle and these other BIBLEs that they found. Oh, we found this ancient Bible, and in there it says that there's 13 months. Well, it's not in the script. They actually added it into this BIBLE. The problem with people doing that, for one, we're not supposed to be following the moon for our days and our months and for our years. I know there's people that tell you, yes, we're supposed to use the moon. You're not supposed to use the moon for your days, for your weeks, for your months, for your Sabbaths, for your feast days. You're not supposed to use the moon for that. And no matter how many times you can show someone this in the book of Jubilees and also in the book of Enoch, they still will not listen. That's okay. That's between them and Yahuwah. But for those of us who have ears and eyes, we're going to do what Abba Yahuwah tells us to do. Abba Yahuwah tells us to follow the sun, the S-U-N. We see all these little markers, these symbolic markers in Scripture, metaphorical markers in Scripture, how we are called the sons of light, how we're called the sons of the day. Well, what rules the day? He said he created 2 orbs, one to rule the day and one to rule the night. If we're supposed to be sons of the light and sons of the day, why are we going by the moon? Interesting question. If we're supposed to be sons of the light, sons of the day, as we're told, even by the Mashiach himself, why are we following the moon? The moon has no place when it comes to our worship days. No place. And yet you're going to see people, because of what has been mistranslated into many of our translations, new moon. They think we're supposed to be following the moon. You'll hear people talk about how, well, the moon changes its phases every 7 days. This is true, but that doesn't mean that you're supposed to follow the moon. He tells us exactly what we're to use, and what we're to use is the sun. I don't know no other way to put it than we're hard-headed when it comes to trying to figure out this calendar. And when I was first coming into this, I started off, like most of you, in the Hillel 2 calendar, which is the Hebrew calendar, as they call it, that the Jews use, these modern Jewish people. And they use what we call the Hillel 2 calendar. And it's based off of the moon. And they say that their days start in the evening. When the scripture clearly tells us, and I know there's going to be some people be like, oh man, this guy don't know what he's talking about. That's fine, that's your opinion. I can show you in scripture. But the day does not start in the evening. It starts when the sun rises, just like we saw just a few minutes ago, or about an hour ago. Let's continue. Enoch chapter 74, verse 12. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. Notice that the moon is absent from this sentence here, verse 12. And the sun and the stars bring in the years exactly, so that they do not advance nor delay their position by a single day unto eternity, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. Verse 13. In 3 years there are 1,092 days. In 5 years 1,820 days. So that in 8 years there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days. Now, what did I say earlier? The sun is going to be in 3 years. It said it here earlier at the very beginning of verse 13. It says, in 3 years, there, meaning the sun, is 1,092 days. And then in verse 14 it says, for the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days. So you see there, 1,092 for the sun, 1,062 for the moon. You subtract that, you get 30 days in 3 years. And in 5 years, the moon falls 50 days behind. Why? Because she loses 10 days every year to the sun. And there is 5 to be added to 62 days. Verse 15, and in 5 years, there are 1,770 days, speaking of the moon. So that for the moon, the days is 6 in 8 years, amounts to 21,832 days. I don't know if that's a misprint. I think that's a misprint. I think it's supposed to be 1,832 days. I'd have to check that later. But yes, that's a misprint. Verse 16. For in 8 years she falls behind to the sun to the amount of 80 days. All the 17 days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. Wow. Verse 17. And the year is accurately completed in conformity with their world stations and the stations of the sun that rise from the portals through that which the sun rises and sets 30 days. 75. And the leaders of the heads of the thousands who are placed over the whole creation and over all the stars have also to do with the 4 intercalary days. So now we're told here that the stars have to do with the intercalary days. Those 4 intercalary days. What are those intercalary days? Those are the equinoxes and the solstices. They are being inseparable from their office according to the reckoning or the counting of the year. And these render their service on those 4 days that are not reckoned in the reckoning or the counting of a year. So again, here in chapter 75, we see how the prophetic calendar is being used. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, so we have what we call the Enoch Zadok calendar. That's the 364-day count, Yahuwah's calendar. But then we have a prophecy calendar within the Enoch Zadok calendar, which is 364 days. The prophetic calendar is 360 days, minus those 4 intercalary days, the equinoxes, the spring, the summer, the fall equinox, and then the winter, okay? It's minus those days. So like when you read the book of Daniel, where it says there in Revelation, or excuse me, Daniel chapter 12, about where there would be 1,290 days. This is using the prophetical calendar, not the Enoch Zadok calendar of 364 count. It's using the 360 count minus the 4 intercalary days, minus the takufas, as we would say in Hebrew. So, also in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, we see that John was told that the woman, the 144,000, was taken to a place that was prepared for her for 1,260 days. That's perfectly divisible by 30, which gives you 42 months. This is minus the 4 intercalary days that you would use to count the year. So this is why you can't use the Gregorian calendar, because when you count with the Gregorian calendar, you're going to count 1,290 days or 1,260 days, and you're going to be using all the days because you don't know where those intercalary days are. You got to know the prophetic calendar count. And the only way you would know that is you know Yahuwah's calendar. So once you start plugging in not to use those 4 days in a prophetical calendar year, you'll understand how to count the 1,290 days in the book of Daniel, 1,260 days in the book of Revelation. Okay, let's continue. Chapter 75, verse 2. And owing to them, men have gone wrong as to counting of those luminaries, truly rendering service on the world stations, one in the first portal, one in the third portal of the heaven, one in the fourth portal, and one in the sixth portal. And the exactness of the year is accomplished through its separate 364 stations. So these stars have 364 stations for every day of the year. Now, have I ever looked at it? No, I'd be lying to you if I did. But we see that that's what it says in the word, right? Now, like as I like to say to everyone, when you're learning about the calendar, a lot of this stuff is not for you to try to know all of it. It's more for the advanced people who want to kind of get into this. But for you and me, for your children, the only thing that you really need to know is the movement of the sun for 364 days. And you may want to know about the prophetical calendar also that I just talked about for the 360 days and not the 364. But as far as the phases of the moon, when they come in, unless you're a farmer or a shepherd, you're going to probably want to know the cycles of the moon because it has a lot to do with procreation and also planting and harvesting of your plants. Whereas the stars, again, the stars, it lets you know where you are in the seasons. That's what we just read in chapter 75, verse 1. Because the stars, they, what's the word I'm looking for? They announce another season. Now, the sun does that too. This is why we see so many times where it talks about the sun and the stars, how they never delay their position to a single day, even all the way into eternity. It never talks about that way about the moon. The moon fluctuates. The moon, and forgive me my Akotis, the moon is just like women in their menstrual cycle. It's not always on time. You can even use one of these apps, and I know some of you younger ladies might use some of these apps to kind of govern to find out when you're about to, have that time of the month. And you'll find out, for those of you who do that, that it's not always on time. It might be a day before. It might be a week early sometimes. It might be a week late, and you're thinking you might be pregnant, right? But that's just the way the human, or I should say, our sisters' bodies work when it comes to the menstrual cycle. And so it is with the moon. The moon also alters its course, like we were reading in chapter 73 of the book of Enoch. She is not steady. She alters her course, as it says there in chapter 73. Okay, chapter 75, verse 3. Let's continue. I got to get ready to make a mark. In fact, let me make a mark real quick. Hold on, you guys. All right. Okay. Chapter 75. I just noticed this. They have 2 3s in here, so let me just read it because they messed up the numbers of the verses. Chapter 75. For the signs and the times and the years and the days, the messenger YAH showed to me, whom Yahuwah of esteem has set forever over all the luminaries of the Shama. And in the Shama and in the world, that they should rule on the face of the Shama as to be seen on the Arats, on the earth. And they are to be leaders for the day and for the night. The sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the ministering creatures that make their revolution in all the chariots of the heaven. In like manner, 12 doors Uriel showed me as they opened into the circumference of the sun's chariots in the heaven. Through that, the rays of the sun breaks out, and from them in the warmth diffused over the entire earth, when they are opened at their appointed seasons. And for the winds and for the spirit and of the dew, when they are opened, standing open in the heavens at the end. And for the 12 portals in the heaven, at the ends of the earth, out of there goes out the sun, the moon, and stars, and all the works of the Shama, or the heaven, in the east and to the west. There are many windows open to the left and to the right of them, and one window at its appointed season produces warmth, corresponding as to these to do the doors. From there the stars come out according to he has commanded, that Yahuwah has commanded them. And therein they set and corresponding to their number. And I saw chariots in the heaven, running in the world, above those portals, in that revolves the stars that never set. And one is larger than all the rest, and it is that makes its course through the entire world. And that's the end of chapter 5. So, as I was saying earlier, to not cause confusion, when you come into this understanding of the calendar, and this is why I like to keep it simple, and I believe this is why Abba Yahuwah has put it on my heart to teach it this way. You only need to keep yourself acquainted with the sun for the most of us. Why the sun? Because the sun marks out our days, just like it says in Jubilees chapter 2, verse 9. Let me read that for some of you who may not know this passage. Jubilees chapter 2, verse 9, and it says, And Yahuwah appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth. And notice this, for days, for Sabbaths, for months, for feasts, for years, for Sabbath of years, and for jubilees of years, and for jubilees, and for all the seasons of the years. Now, that verse 9 tells you all you need to know on how you need to keep your calendar, because right there, it helps you to understand your days of the week. It helps you to understand how to find your weekly Sabbaths. This is using the sun, not the moon. Everything that I'm sharing with you right now. The sun is also used for our months, not the moon. The months are used by the sun. So the sun comes up every 30 days, and then a 31-day period. We can read about this to back up in the book of Enoch, chapter 72. And you're also going to use the sun to find your high days, your appointed times, your Pesach, your Passover, your unleavened bread, your first fruits, your Shabuat, also known as the Feast of Weeks or Pentecost, your Yom Teruah, your day of noises, okay, or a day of trumpets, Yom HaKippurim, your day of atonement, and for your Feast of Sukkot, also known as the ingathering or tabernacles. All of this is based off of the sun, not the moon. Let me see. And then for the beginning and the ending of your years, do you use the moon? No, you use the sun. That's why we're doing what I'm doing today. We're charting out the sun across the sky for the straight line shadow. 7-year Sabbaths. Now this takes us back to what the Messiah said, how he was going to deal with his people in 7-year increments. You can find this in Leviticus chapter 25, where it talks about the year of the Yobal, also known as Jubilees. And it happens every 49 years. And then the 50th year, which is the beginning of another 49-year count, is the year of Jubilee. So the first year of the beginning of another count of Jubilee is also the ending of a Jubilee. It's kind of like the cycle of the week. So you go from the first day of the week, and then you get to the last day of the week, and right when the last day of the week is over, that marcator line where you're going from one to the next, that moment, that's like a split second, you're going into another time frame. The same thing with the 50-year periods or the Jubilees. It can almost get weird when you start counting it because you got people that are saying, oh no, you're supposed to count every 50 years, every 50 years, every 50 years. And you can do that. But when you're looking at the way that it's counted in the book of Jubilees, you'll see that it's being counted every 49 years. And that 50th year is a Jubilee year, but it's also the first count of the following 50 years that you're about to count again. So you're starting the first year of the 50, okay? But it's the 50th year of the previous 49. I hope that doesn't sound crazy. So I haven't studied the Jubilee cycle to where we're at on the Jubilee cycle. I know there's people that say that we're in the end of a Jubilee cycle this year, which means in 2 days we'll be entering into a new Jubilee season. So we will be in the second year coming up, okay, the second year of the 50-year count of the next Jubilee cycle. So we're in the 50th year now, according to some of these people who've studied this. I haven't studied it. I'm just telling you what I've heard. But if that is the case, then we're coming to the end of the 50th Jubilee year, but we're going into the second count, or the second year count of the next Jubilee. Because again, the 50th Jubilee is, again, the first year count of the 49-year count that you're supposed to have, the 7 sevens. So again, 7 times 7 is 49. And then you would start again at 7 times 7 is a 49. But when you finish the 49 count, that next year, which is the 50th year, is also the first year of the next 50-year count. Okay? I hope that, again, isn't too confusing. So, let's continue here. Chapter 75, verse 4. Let's go back to this. In like manner, 12 doors YAH showed me, open in the circumference of the sun's chariot in the heaven. Through that of the rays of the sun breaks out. Okay, I read all of that. Oh no, so we are in chapter 76. Okay. Chapter 76 of Enoch. And at the end of the earth I saw 12 portals open to all the quarters of the heaven. From there the winds go out and blow over all the earth. 3 of them are open on the face of the east of the heavens, and 3 in the west, and 3 on the right, on the south of the heaven, and 3 to the left, which would be north. And the 3 first are those of the east, and the 3 are of the north, and 3 of those to the left are to the south, and 3 of those that are remaining are to the west. Through 4 of these come the winds of barakah and prosperity, and from those 8 come hurtful winds when they are sent. They bring destruction on all the earth, and it brings about water upon it as well, and on all who dwell thereon, and on everything that is in the waters and on the land. And the first wind from there of the portals, called the east wind, comes out through that first portal that is in the east, inclining towards the south. From it comes out desolation, drought, heat, and destruction. So if you ever notice, and I've noticed that here in my neck of the woods here in Vegas, anytime we have any weather approaching from the east, it's always catastrophic. Always, because normally, and I say normally, the weather patterns come from west to east. So like, it'll hit California first, and then it'll come over the mountain ranges, and then it'll hit it here into Nevada, specifically here where I'm at in Vegas. And then it'll go from here and it'll go east, and many times, like my brother who lives in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm like telling him like, yeah, we just had this crazy storm here or whatever, you know, and this is just coming from the west to the east. And then about the time he gets to Omaha, they're having tornadoes, they're having hail, they're having all this crazy stuff, right? And then every once in a while we'll get an east wind. Now it's coming from this direction into Vegas. Every single time that happens, you got strong winds, you got crazy weather, you know, it's just, and I don't know if you guys noticed that in some of your areas, but it is always like that. Makoti Amadora, is this the counting of the Omer? No, not yet. But there is a counting of the Omer that has to do with the 50. That has to do with the days and not years, right? So Jubilee has to do with years, and the Omer, the count to the Omer, which takes us to Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks. You may know it as Pentecost. That's the count of the Omer. That's the 50 days. So those are 2 separate things. Okay, let's continue. Okay, verse 5. Oh yeah, so it is. And the first wind from those portals is called the east wind, comes out through the first portal that is in the east, inclining towards the south, and from it comes desolation, drought, heat, and destruction. And through the second portal in the middle comes that what is fitting, and from it there comes rain, fruitfulness, prosperity, dew. And through the third portal that lies towards the north comes cold and drought. And after these comes the south wind. From there the 3 portals, from the first portal of them inclining to the east comes out this hot wind. And through the middle portal next to it there comes out a fragrant of smell, and of dew, and of rain, and prosperity, and health. And through the third portal lying to the west comes out dew of rain, and locusts, and desolation. And after these the north winds, and the 7 portals in the east comes dew, rain, locusts, and desolation. And from the middle portal comes a direct direction, health and rain and dew and prosperity. And through the third portal in the west comes cloud, hoarfrost, snow and rain, dew and locusts. And after these 4 are the west winds. Through the first portal or joining to the north comes out dew, hoarfrost, cold, snow and frost. And from the middle portal comes out dew and rain and prosperity and barakah. And through the last portal that adjoins to the south comes out drought and desolation and burning and destruction. And these are the 12 portals of the 4 quarters of the heavens, and therewith, and are completed, and are their laws, and are their plagues, and all their benefactions, have I shown to you, my son, Methuselah. So Enoch showed this to his son, Methuselah. All right. Let's see where we're at here. Let me go ahead and mark this up. Why isn't it showing? There it is. Okay. All right. Let's see, who do we have here? Was invited to join a family for Passover. I asked her where she got her lamb from and was told that it is not needed. I asked if she does the cedar, and she said yes. I was referring to you. Yeah, so you don't have to have a lamb. That's true. Most of us eat the lamb just as a celebration and observation of what was done and how the children of Yasharal kept the first Pesach. Shalom, Israel Cain. I like to imagine that Yahuwah is excited to explain all of his creation to us and talk shop. Yeah, I mean, he's doing that with us right now, but we're going to really get that time like you're talking about as that day comes about when we're before him, and it's going to be beautiful. When he's going to explain all the mysteries, yeah? I look forward to that. I definitely look forward to that. Okay, chapter 77 of the book of Enoch. And the first quarter is called the east because it is the first, and the second is the south because the Most High shall descend from there. That's so interesting because we also find that, and this is how we know this lines up. There's like little bugs flying everywhere. It's so weird. I hope they're like not like little gnats that are going to be biting me. I can't remember. I want to say it's in Zechariah. I think it's Zechariah, but it talks about how the Messiah is going to descend from the south. And it's so weird, right? Because we talk about the northern lights and how his throne is in the north. But on that day, Yahuwah is going to crack the sky coming from the south, and then he's going to be seen in the east. This is why you hear people say eyes to the east, right? Okay, let's continue. So the Most High will descend from there. Yes, there is quite a special sense. Will he who is Baruch forever descend? And the west quarter is named the diminished, because there all the luminaries of the heaven wane and go down. And the fourth quarter, named the north, is divided into 3 parts. The first of them is the dwelling of men. The second contains the sea, and the third the abyss, and forest, and rivers, and darkness, and clouds, and the third part contains the garden of righteousness. That would be the Garden of Eden. And I saw 7 high mountains, higher than all the mountains that are on the earth. So notice that he says he saw 7 high mountains, but they're higher than all the mountains that are on the earth. So these are not normal mountains. They're not, and I guess when I'm saying they're not normal mountains, they're not on the face of the earth. Whatever Enoch was shown, these are different mountains. Okay, let's continue. Verse 4, again it says, I saw 7 mountains higher than all the mountains that are on the earth, and there comes out hoarfrost, days, seasons, years pass away. Oh, I'm thinking it's trying to, boy, they got a lot of mistranslated words here. And from there comes out hoarfrost, days, seasons, and years that pass away. I saw 7 rivers on the earth larger than all the rivers. One of them coming from the west pours its waters into the great sea. And these 2 come from the north to the sea and pour their waters into the Eurythean Sea. Erythraean Sea in the east. And the remaining 4 come out on the side of the north to their own sea, 2 of them to the Erythraean, or however you say that, sea, and the 2 to the great sea, and discharge themselves there, and some say into the desert. 7 great islands I saw in the sea, and in the mainland, 2 in the mainland, 5 in the great sea. 2 in the mainland. Hey, there's a skink right there, you guys. I haven't seen a skink in years. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get you guys to see it with me. When I used to catch those, you have to catch them with gloves, because, boy, if they bite you, boy, they cling on like a pit bull. Oh, he took off running. I don't know if you guys can see him. There he is right there, basking in the sun, looking at me. Do you see it? If you guys see it, give me a 7. Do you guys see it? Oh yeah, you guys see it, yeah? It's got a little, it's probably gonna move as soon as I move. It's got a long tail. But that's called a skink. So they're coming out. They are coming out. Let me bring this back out. Let's see how things are doing here. Okay. Alrighty. And put this back up here. Yeah, that thing went right by me. That's why I saw it. I was like, what in the world? Okay. Let's back to what we were reading. Had a look at that. Love Yahuwah's creatures. Just don't want them doing anything crazy to me. Okay. Back to chapter 77. Oh no, we read all of 77. Now we're going to 78. So I was meditating on verse 8. 7 great islands I saw in the sea and in the mainland. 2 in the mainland and 5 in the great sea. Could this be the 7 continents? But then again, we know that the earth looked a little different during this time when all this was shown to Enoch. This was before the splitting of the earth in the days of Yared. I don't know. I have to look into that. Okay, chapter 78. And on the names of the and the names of the sun, the S-U-N, are the following. The first is Horus, the second Tomas, and the moon has 4 names. The first name is Asonia, the second Abla, the third Benes, and the fourth Are. These are the 2 great luminaries. Their circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and the size of the circumference of both of them are alike. In the circumference of the sun, there are 7 portions of light that are added to it, more than to the moon, and its definite measure is transferred until the 7th portion of the sun is exhausted. And they set and enter the portals of the west. So let me read that part again, verse 4. In the circumference of the sun, there are 7 portions of light that are added to it more than to the moon. And in definite measures it is transferred until the 7th portion of the sun is exhausted. And they set and enter into the portals of the west, and make their revolution by the north, and come out through the eastern portals on the face of the heaven. So right here in verse 5 of chapter 78, we're told, again, through the imagery of what we're being told there, is that the earth is a flat plain. And from the location that Enoch was standing and was given this view of being able to see the sun as it's going through its circuit, he says it's going to the west, and then it turns and goes towards the north, and then it comes back around to reach the east. The sun's doing this, not the earth. The sun is doing this, okay? I know there are some of you who are going to believe man over the scriptures, but I'm just telling you, that's what it says here. All right. Verse 6, and when the moon rises, 1/14th part appears in the heaven. The light becomes full in her on the 14th day when she accomplishes her light. And 15 parts of the light are transferred to her until the 14th day when her light is accomplished according to the sign of the year. And she becomes 15 parts, and the moon grows by the addition of 14 parts. And in her waning, that is the diminishing, the moon decreases on the first day to the 14 parts of her light, on the second to the 13th part of the light, and the third to the 12th. And so again, this talks about how you see all the different transitions of the phases of the moon until it disappears on the 15th. Verse 9, and in certain months to month, she has 29 days, and once she has 28 days of her month. So the month, and this is why I like to use the word period instead of month, because the word month, we already have it established in our mind to think of it as this particular month as we know with the Gregorian calendar. But each one has its own period, its cycle, if you will. The sun has a 30-day cycle to complete what we call a month. The moon has a 28, sometimes 29 cycle day period that is called its month, okay? So you have differences in what is called a month or a period. The sun has its own period. The moon has its own period. The sun has a 30-day period. The moon has a 28 or a 29-day period, mostly 28. This is why people follow the moon more than they do the sun, because of the 7-day phases of the moon. And they say, see, this is why God gave us the moon so we can follow the phases every 7 days. If he wanted us to follow the moon, he would have told us to do so. He never did. Translators want us to follow the moon because they have been lunatics. They've been lunicized, if you will, through Babylonian teaching. Okay, let's continue. I don't want to get to philosophizing. All right. Back to chapter 78, Enoch. And verse 9, and in certain months, the month of the moon has 29 days, and once 28 days. So it's saying that, excuse me, I said that backwards. So most of the months it has 29 days, and it only has one month where it's 28 days. I believe this is why when many people follow the moon, they have that reset. And when I used to follow the lunar solar calendar with the lunar Shabbat, and so when the moon first appears, you don't count that day as they do it. You know, you don't count that day. Then the very next day they start their count. So this offsets their calendar count of their moon month. So they say that the first Sabbath is the 8th day, the second Sabbath is the 15th day, The third Sabbath is the 22nd day, and then the third Sabbath is the 29th day. So all that being said, then after the 29th day, they might go 2 days without seeing the new sliver of the moon. So these are 2 void days that they don't move, or they just don't count it. That starts to add up over the year, okay? If you're not counting certain days, you're missing all these days that you're just saying these are void days. Well, the calendar that we follow, the 364-day calendar count, we only have 1 day, which we just did the other day. That was that out of time count, the 1 void day. This is reflected in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, where there was it was void, it was formless. This was that dark period, that void day before he said let there be light on day 1. And so this is how we find our way back. So you can't put the void day anywhere but before the first day of creation. That is that void day, that formless void separation, if you will. Okay, let's continue. There's like little bugs flying everywhere. It's so weird. They're like, I feel like I got little critters on me. Okay, let's see here. Verse 11. Or no, verse 10. And Uriel showed me another law. When light is transferred to the moon, and on that side it is transferred to her by the sun. So again, for all of you people that out there that say, the moon gives its own light, the moon has its own light, not according to the book of Enoch, not according to what I just read. Let me read it again. Enoch chapter 78, verse 11. During all the period during that the moon is growing in her light, she is transferring it to herself when opposite to the sun during 14 days. Her light is accomplished in the heaven, and when she is illumined throughout, her light is accomplished full in the heaven. And that is not the verse 10. I read the wrong one. I went ahead of myself. Verse 10. Let me read it again. Chapter 78, verse 10. And Uriel, the messenger, showed me another law. When light is transferred to the moon, on that side, it is transferred to her by the sun. By the sun. That's verse 10. 78 verse 10. So if anyone ever says to you again, oh no, the moon has its own light, not according to 78 verse 10 in the book of Enoch, she doesn't. Verse 11. During all the period during that the moon is growing in her light, she is transferring it to herself when opposite to the sun during 14 days. Her light is accomplished in the heaven, and when she is illumined throughout, her light is accomplished full in the heaven. And on the first day she is called a new moon. So when she is full, she is called a new moon. When she is full, she is called a new moon. For on that day the light rises upon her. She becomes full moon exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west. And from the east she rises at night, and the moon shines the whole night through until the sun rises over against her again, and the moon is seen over against the sun. Verse 14. On the side from where the light of the moon comes out, there again she wanes until all the light vanishes, and all the days of the month are at an end. Again, this is her month, not the sun month. And that period is what I'm talking about. Again, how do we find our months? How do we find our periods? Not using the moon, we have to use the sun. And it says, and all the days of her month are at an end. Her month, it says, okay, are at an end. And her circumference is empty, and she is void of light. So for all of you who are following this lunar Sabbath calendar, and you say that the new month or the new moon is what you're looking for, that sliver in the western horizon, I hate to bust it to you, but that's not the new moon. That's not the new moon. Not according to what I'm reading here in the book of Enoch. The new moon, according to the book of Enoch, is a full moon. It's a full moon. Let me read verse 14 again. Back up. Let me read from verse 12. And on the first day she is called the new moon, for on that day the light rises upon her. She becomes a full moon, exactly on the day when she sets in the west and in the east, rises at night. And the moon rises or shines the whole night through until the sun rises over against her, and the moon is set over against the sun. Verse 14. On the side from where the light of the moon comes out, there again she wanes until all the light vanishes, and all the days of her period or month are at an end, and her circumference is empty, and she is void of light. Verse 15. And 3 months she makes of 30 days, and at her time she makes 3 months of 29 days. In that she accomplishes her waning in the first period of time, and in the first portal for 177 days. And in the time of her going out she appears for 3 months of 30 days each. And for those 3 months she appears 29 days each. And at night she appears like a man for 29 days, and like a man for 20 days each time, and by day she appears like the heaven, and there is nothing else in her save except her light. Well, I tell you, the way they translate some of this, it is really confusing. It is really confusing. Okay, let me see. Do I have to make another mark? Yes, I do. I am thankful to be able to do this with you guys today. Took another day off. I don't know if I can call it a day off, but it's a day away from work. That work is still going to be waiting for me when I get done with all of this here. Take a quick break here. Take these glasses off. So, make sure I don't hit this board. You know, it's weird having a channel and sharing my spiritual growth experience with others all over the world. It's different. I've never thought I would be doing something like this. I see someone says that they're a new subscriber here. Welcome, Johnson. Welcome. Is it Reba or Reba? I really hate butchering people's names. I'll just say Johnson. And welcome to all you new people here. My name is YAH Jimmy, also known as Brother Jimmy. We are ambassadors of YAH. We are a group of believers who believe in the Messiah, Yahusha. We believe in the finished work of what he has done on the tree for our salvation. We believe in keeping of the Torah, the instructions. Not that the law saves you, but these are works that we're to do. We're to be walking in them. This is our conduct. Those laws are our laws of conduct. It's not laws for salvation. It's how we're to conduct ourselves. That's what those laws are for. Where Christianity has twisted these laws of conduct is that they think that people who are keeping these laws of conduct, they're trying to keep them for salvation. And that is true to a point. Because after all, the Messiah in chapter 19 of Matthew did say, if you want everlasting life, keep the commandments. He said that to the young rich ruler. You can read it for yourself, and I believe it starts at verse 16. In fact, I'm going to read it for you. Let me read it. Let me grab my scriptures. So I'm going to be reading out of the scriptures. Matthew chapter 19 says thus. starting at verse 16. And see, one came and said to him, Righteous teacher, what righteous thing shall I do to have everlasting life? Check the question. This rich young ruler, excuse me, while I burp here for a second. This rich young ruler asked our Messiah one question. What must I do to inherit everlasting life? Verse 17, the Messiah says to him, Why do you call me righteous? No one is righteous except one, Alua Alahim, the mighty of mighty ones. And then he says, But if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. Or in your King Jimmy, it'll say, keep the commandments. And so then the rich young ruler said to him, Which ones am I supposed to do? And Yahusha said to him, You shall not murder. That is the 6th commandment. You shall not commit adultery. That's the 7th commandment. You shall not steal. That is the 8th commandment. You shall not bear false witness. That is the 9th commandment. And then he concludes it by saying, or excuse me, let me continue. Respect your father and your mother. That is the 5th commandment. And then he concludes by saying, You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And the young man said to him, All these I have watched over from my youth. What do I still lack? Yahusha said to him, If you wish to be perfect, go sell what you have, give to the poor, and you shall have treasures in the Shama in the heaven. And come, follow me. And so it goes on and says, And when the young man heard the word, he went away sad because he had many possessions. Now, for those of you who know the 10 Commandments, the only one that wasn't mentioned here of this group of how you are to love your neighbor as yourself was, you shall not covet. That's the 10th commandment. Notice I said the 5th commandment, which is to love your to honor your mother and your father. The 6th commandment is you shall not murder. The 7th, you shall not commit adultery. The 8th, you shall not steal. The 9th, you shall not bear false witness. But he never said, our Messiah never said to the rich young ruler, and you shall not covet your neighbor's things. Why? Because that was his problem. He was a coveting fellow. He loved all of his possessions. He was very covetous. So the reason why I bring this up is because, again, the laws that we have been given, they are laws of conduct. It's how you are to conduct yourself. It's how you are to walk your life out before Abba Yahuwah and before your fellow man, before your Adam's kind, your family, the human family. Another way of looking at a lot of these commandments is the opposite. So you know how at the beginning he says, I am your Yahuwah, your mighty one. You shall have no other mighty ones except for me. So what is he saying? He's saying that just the opposite of that. You are not to have any of these mighty ones, any of these other things that you claim to follow. The second one, you're not to have for yourself any idols or images. You're not to make for yourself any idols or images. He's a very jealous mighty one. We're not to have anything that is before him, that proceeds before him, be it our family, our friends, our job, making money, which is a big one for a lot of people. You know, cars, vehicles, whatever it is that you put before Abba Yahuwah, that is an idol. Images, a lot of images. An image can become an idol. And then the third one, he says, you are not to take his name and make it into nothing. A lot of your modern English translations will say you are not to take the L-O-R-D, your G-O-D's name in vain. But it's not saying that in the true translation. It is to make his name into nothing. When you hear the word vain, it's like you're not using it properly. But that's not what he's saying. You've made his name into nothing. And that's what we did through the translators. A lot of the translators, they don't speak the name. They don't share the name. They don't want you to know the name. So they give us this ineffable doctrine. The Jewish people do it. Christianity does it. The Muslims don't even know it. The Buddhists don't know it. So who are the only people who know the name? The covenant name, the agreement name, the marriage name. You see, we take on the name of our husband. Who's the husband? Yahusha. He says, I shall call my people by my name, Yahuda. Not Christians. Not Christians. Not born-again believers. Yahuda. The celebrated ones. I am celebrated. And so from there we get the fourth commandment. Remember the Sabbath and to keep it set apart. Set apart from what? All the other days. Set apart from doing what? No work. No buying or selling. No lighting a fire. You're not to pick up heavy things. All of this is why? So that you can spend time with your Creator and with the mishpachah, with the family. It's not about rules and regulations of what you can and cannot do. It's about you taking the time out to say, don't do those things. So he has to give us an itemized list to say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Because we're so busy wanting to do this and do this and do this and do this. These are laws of conduct. They're not the laws to have salvation. Because if it was to give us salvation, there would be no need for the Messiah. But we continue to follow the Messiah as we're keeping the laws of conduct. It is not to be done away with. I mean, if you think about it, how dumb does it sound? When I was a Christian, right? And we would say, we don't keep the law. Okay, if we don't keep the law, then why do I already know in my heart not to lie? Why do I already know in my heart, Christians, not to bear false witness? Why do I already know it in my heart to respect my mother and my father? Why do I already know all of this stuff? Because the law is written in you. Even if you go to the deepest areas of the jungles of Amazon or Africa, or some of these places where outside civilization has never touched them or even spoke to them. There's not too many places like that now, but if you used to go to some of those places, they know not to unalive each other. They know that that's wrong. And they never read the Bible. They know they're not to steal from each other's tents or their, whatever you want to call it, their homes. They know not to steal from one another. They never read the Bible. How did they know that already? Because it's written in us. It's already in our consciousness. It's in our DNA. It's in our DNA. So when you purposely say you're not going to follow the law, and yet they are still laws to you within your heart, just like Shaul, Paul says in the book of Romans, I believe chapter 2, you're still going to be judged by what you already know because it's in you. It is in you. You can't get away from it. Now, here's the difference. Those who know the Creator, they know the intricate laws. They know about not eating certain things. They know about how they are supposed to be clean on certain things and when they're not clean by doing certain things. This is what separates us. This is what places us and makes us set apart from the rest of the world. You see, those 6 commandments that pertain to man, how you love your neighbor as yourself, that's already in us. It's the first 4 commandments. That's what we need to be taught. Those 4 commandments is what shows us that we are his people. That's the sign. His people will know him because they're keeping his commandments. All the rest of the people, they have those 6 commandments. Hence the number 6 is the number of man. Just like in the book of Revelation, chapter 13. It talks about how the man who is going to be the false Messiah has the number, and it's the number of a man. And his number is 666. Notice that Adam was created on the 6th day. And notice that the 6th commandment is that we are not to unalive, or we are not to murder the image that Abba Yahuwah has created. He could have made that commandment any commandment he wanted about not murdering. He could have said it to be the 1st commandment. He could have made that the 8th commandment. But nope, he made it the 6th commandment for a reason. That 6th commandment has to do with the number of man. And so we see now that those of us who are coming into this truth, he's preparing us on this 6th millennium as we're getting ready to enter into the millennial reign. We're coming to the close of the 6th millennium, the 6th day. A day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day. He's perfecting us just like he was perfect. Adam was perfect when he was created. We're being created into a new man. This is what we're told. Many of us, we don't want to be changed. We like to be the way we are. We don't want to make that change. And so we become what our society has told us. You're supposed to be a Christian. You live in a Christian country. We believe in Judeo-Christian beliefs. All of this is a spell put on his people. It is not by coincidence. Let's see how many people fall away when I start speaking about this. There's 120 something of us here right now. Let's see what happens when I start speaking this truth. It is not by coincidence that we find ourselves here, for those, most of us, who call ourselves Christians in this country. I used to be a Christian. I used to call myself a follower of Christ until my eyes were opened. The coincidence of being in this country and now knowing this truth is not by accident. Many of us, if not all of us that are listening to me right now, have been born into a Christian family. And that's all we knew. All we knew was Christianity. And through Christianity, we got our introduction into what we know as the truth, into the words of our Creator. Now, we get to read his word, but it's the interpretation. It's the interpretation that's messed up a lot of people. This is why the Messiah says, many shall say unto me on that day, haven't we not cast out demons in your name? How does he say it there? Let's go look at it. And done many mighty miracles in your name. Matthew chapter 7. Verse 21. Many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name? cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name. This is talking about people who have read his word. This is talking about people who seem to know the Messiah. These are people who felt that they were close to the Messiah, that they walked with him. And yet he says to them, I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Let's stop right there. I never knew you. I never knew you. How would you like to stand before him on that day, thinking all your life that you knew him? And this is why you're bringing up, haven't we prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and done all these mighty works in your name? And then for him to turn around and say to you that he never knew you? Notice in those three examples that he gave, it all talks about his name. Haven't we prophesied in your name? Cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name. And then he says he's going to declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. You who work lawlessness. If you was to see that in the King James Version, it'll say, you who do iniquity. Now, for me, when I was in Christianity, when I read that passage and I saw the word iniquity, I never applied it to the law. I never looked at it as it had something to do with the law of Moses. I always looked at it as I was just being a bad person. I was doing those things, those 6 commandments, something in those 6 commandments that I was just talking about how you to love your neighbor as yourself, right? If you love your neighbor, you're not going to commit murder. If you love your neighbor, you're not going to sleep with his wife. If you love your neighbor, you're not going to, steal. If you love your neighbor, you're not going to bear false witness. If you love your neighbor, you're not going to covet his things. That's what I thought iniquity was. I didn't know that iniquity was lawlessness. That is to be without Torah, without the law. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness, meaning that you are practicing lawlessness. I hope that's resonating with somebody in here. Most of us know this, but I say this because, again, my mission that has been given to me is to go after that one. It's not about the 99. It's about that one who's still in Christianity that thinks that they have salvation because they call upon the name of Jesus and that they are saved without works. And I would have you to know, faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead, people. That's why I read Matthew chapter 19, starting at verse 16, about the rich young ruler. What must I do to inherit everlasting life? What did the Messiah say? He said, keep the commandments. Why didn't he say, believe in me? Because that young ruler already believed in him. He already believed in him. His problem was that he coveted things, like many of us. How many of you are going to walk away from your home, from your job, from your cars, from your family, if that has to happen, when you start seeing them building the 3rd temple? That is the abomination of desolation, after all. That's the abomination that's going to cause destruction. It's going to bring about the wrath of Yahuwah, because they are placing the temple where it ought not be. How many of you have the power to walk away, to take that first step off of that pavement into the wilderness and no looking back? You know, when I was young, When I was in Church of Christ, we used to sing this song, and it goes like this. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. What's the next part? Anybody knows? Let me see if somebody knows this in the comments. What's the last part of that I was just singing? I know somebody knows it. That old hymnal. There's a reason why I'm bringing up that song. I have decided to follow Jesus. The last part says, no turning back, no turning back. Now, are we truly following the Messiah? Many of us are following, quote unquote, Jesus. What has been taught to us about Jesus is that Jesus, according to the way that these people have taught us about this Messiah named Jesus, is that we're not to keep the laws anymore. But he never said that. Jesus, who they've taught to us, might have said that. But the Messiah, Yahusha, the Hebrew Messiah, he didn't teach that. He taught us to keep the commandments. All throughout the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, go back and read it. You will see that he never told us to deviate away from the commandments. In fact, he said just the opposite. Anyone who teaches you to break the least of these commandments and teaches men to do so shall be considered least in the kingdom of heaven. That's not talking about you getting in. It's talking about Judgment Day. On Judgment Day, you will be in that group, that category called the goat, left of the throne. These are the least. They're not getting in. They're getting ready to get tossed into the lake. The Messiah says, if you love me, John chapter 14, verse 15, note it, look at it. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you are truly following the Messiah, Yahusha, yes, we're not to be turning back. We're not to be going back to the world. He says if we go back to turn back into the world, he says his heart has nothing to do with us. He will remove his lampstand from within you. He will remove his spirit from within your body. Yet too many people want to sit in these temples, these pagan temples called churches. These pagan temples that they go to every Wednesday and Sunday. And they allow these people to speak into their life from the pulpit while they're sitting in the pews. And they're allowing these people to talk to them, telling them how they're to receive salvation. When the scripture clearly tells us when the new covenant comes, no longer shall anyone have to teach you. It says, for they shall all know me. From the least of them to the greatest of them, they shall all know me. Who's he talking about? We don't see everybody knowing him. He's talking about those who are seeking him. They shall all know him. That's not a blanket statement for all of humankind. But that's the way people think of it. That's not what he's saying. He's saying for those that are hungry and thirsty for righteousness, they shall know him. They will know him. This is why he says, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. But why do so many of us not follow him when he tells us, if you love me, keep my commandments? We say, nope. Paul said, the Apostle Paul said, and I love Apostle Paul. I love his readings. I love his writings. I love his letters. I read them a lot. What I don't like is the The mistranslation or the twisting of the interpretation of what he has said to make it sound like we're not to be following the law. Let me show you a few passages of what Paul said. Let's go to the book of Romans. In the book of Romans, chapter 3, the very last verse of chapter 3 says this. Romans chapter 3, verse 31. Do we then nullify the Torah, the law? Do we then abolish, is what he's saying, the law? Through our belief, through our faith? Let it not be. Let it not be. Some of your translations will say, certainly not. On the contrary, just the opposite. We establish the law. What part of that did Paul say where we don't have to follow it anymore? If he's saying that we established the law, how was that done away with? How was that no longer to be followed? How was that voided out? How was that nullified? It's not. It's not. Let me read another one for you. Right here in the same book called Romans, chapter 7. He says here, verse 7, what then shall we say? Is the law sin? Let it not be. Let me say that again. Let me say that again, because Christianity is looking at the law as if it's evil, as if it's wicked, as if it's darkness, as if it's sin, as if it's transgression to keep the law. That doesn't even make sense for me even saying that. They think it's transgression to follow the law. Let me read it again. Romans 7:7. What then shall we say? Is the law sin? Guess what Shaul said? Guess what Paul said? He says, let it not be. The same words that we just read in Romans chapter 3, verse 31. So it goes on and says, however, I did not know sin except through the law, for also to covetous. I knew not if the law did not say, you shall not covet. But sin, having taken an occasion through the commandment, did work in me all sorts of covetousness. This was the problem that the rich young ruler had in Matthew chapter 19, verse 6. Look at that. You see that? 30 people done left the building. I told you, every time we get to talking about the truth and how you to keep the commandments, and remember, these are laws of conduct, not laws for salvation. This is how we're supposed to conduct ourselves. You just don't become lawless. That is a form of witchcraft, to be rebellious. But you got people doing it every day. They give themselves excuses why they're not going to do it. Well, I'm a Gentile. Oh, well, then you definitely ain't a believer. If you're calling yourself a Gentile, you're not a believer. You haven't really metamorphosized in the brain. You haven't transformed your mind. You're still believing that you are a Gentile means that you haven't transformed your mind. What is your mind supposed to be transformed to? You're supposed to have it transformed into the same mindset as the Messiah had when he was here on this earth. And what kind of mindset did he have? Follow the law. That was his mindset. This is why he told all the disciples that were going to be his disciples, follow me. Follow after me. Do what I'm doing. Because after all, he came here as a mere man. He stripped himself of all of his authority, of all of his power. He came to show us the way. This is why he says, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. And if you're not doing what he says, when he says, if you love me, keep my commandments, then you have nothing in him. This is why he says again, and I'm saying this and I'm reiterating it, my sheep know my voice and they follow me. What is so difficult about this? Why don't we want to follow him? Because we're following man. We're following our pastors. We're following our what? Preachers. We're following our evangelists, our ministers, our reverends, our bishops, our apostles, and our prophetesses. But you're not following the one you're supposed to be following. The one that you're supposed to be following is the Messiah. Deny yourself, pick up your stake, and follow after me. But people don't want to do that. Soon as you get to start talking about this law, just like talking about his true name, it is straight up kryptonite to a lot of people. Or it's like throwing water on a witch. Can't take it. But he's told us to follow him, to keep his commandments. It's strewn all over the New Testament. It's all over the place. Read 1 John. Read 1 John, the letter, the 1 John. Just read it. From chapter 1, verse 1, all the way to chapter 5. Read all 5 chapters. I'm telling you, if you look at it with understanding that you're to keep the law, you'll see it all over the place. And this was a disciple who was walking with the Messiah for 3.5 years. He was walking with the Messiah for 3.5 years. And he says, this is the message that you heard from the beginning of him who we preach. That in him there is no darkness at all. That Elohim is light. We are to follow his commandments. And when you read chapter 2 of that same letter, 1 John chapter 2, verse 3, if we say that we know him and we do not keep his commandments, we are a liar, and the truth, the Messiah, is not dwelling in us. Is not dwelling in us. He who says he knows him and yet does not keep his commandments, you are a liar. Think about that. This is why he's going to say to so many of you on that day when you say, but haven't I prophesied in your name? Haven't I casted out demons in your name? Haven't I done all these mighty miracles in your name? And what did he say he's going to say to them? And I shall say to them, depart from me. Depart from me. Like he don't even, you make him disgusted of you. He's disgusted with you. Depart from me. I never knew you. Never is the key word there. He never knew you. So that means when you said that prayer at the so-called altar, when that pastor said to all of you who had your hands raised up and had all your eyes closed and all these heads bowed, and you came up here to the altar to quote unquote give your life to Jesus Christ, and you said this magical prayer, and your pastor's over here lying to you, talking about today if you was to die now because you said this magical prayer, you're going to be in heaven. Well, the Messiah said, I never knew you. I never knew you. Why didn't he never know you? Because you're not keeping the law. That's what he says next. Depart from me, you worker of lawlessness, you worker without the Torah, you who practices lawlessness, to not keep the law. He says, those who love me keep my words. They keep my commandments. All of this is intertwined. Everything that I'm sharing with you is intertwined. There's no 7 steps to faith and five steps to sanctification and all this other mess that they be preaching and teaching in these pagan temples. Because I used to be one of them that used to preach in these pagan temples. And that's exactly what I used to teach. Lawlessness, Torahlessness, saying the law has been done away with. And I would tell the people in the congregation, anybody who tells you to keep the law, these are legalists. Do not listen to them. Because this is why the Messiah came and did what he did, because we rest in the Messiah. He paid it for us. He did everything for us, so we don't have to do anything. If anybody thinks they have to work for their salvation, they don't know the Messiah. That's what I said. And so this is why I understand now, with those scales removed off of my eyes, that Christianity, what's the word I'm looking for? The polarized lenses of Christianity, I had to remove those so I could see the truth. And it wasn't just a thing that happened overnight, like I shared yesterday. This was something that it took a while. But some of you, let me make this marking here, but some of you are going through a crash course and you're learning it very fast because time is running out. Time is running out. And not only is time running out, but we got people to save. We got people to share this message with. As you all know that came into this truth, you know who the hardest people to preach to and to teach and share. It's our friends and our family. You know why? Because they used to see us doing all the things that we weren't supposed to be doing just like they were doing. Going clubbing, going to the bars and drinking, playing pool, going to concerts, drinking at the concerts, acting like the world is hunky-dory, everything is beautiful. Yay, sing it, encore, 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 right? We're not even thinking about what the rest of the world is going on. We're not thinking about what Yahusha is about to do. He's about to crack that sky. They, our family members, our friends, they all saw us coming and celebrating their birthdays, and they come and celebrate our birthdays, and we'll go to their house for Thanksgiving. They'll turn around and come to our house for Thanksgiving. Everybody is full, body's glad, watching NFL, sitting down, kicking back beer or whatever drink that you want. And then we do the same thing when it comes to Christmas, and we all come together. How we want this dreaming of a white Christmas. Well, here in the desert, we're not going to have one really. But nonetheless, you know what I'm saying. And this is what they remember of you. They remember you doing these things with them. And now you're not doing it. What's wrong with Jimmy? We used to always go to his house for Christmas. We used to always go to his house for Thanksgiving. We used to always put up all those scary little things for Halloween and scare the kids and have all these things all set up, having this little walkway for the kids to come through this little haunted house looking thing. And, we used to do it up. I used to do all that stuff, man. I was a pagan of the pagans. That's what I was doing. Decking my house up with the lights and ornaments, and I had to go get the biggest tree that'd fit under my ceiling, and I would do all of that stuff. I always had to do it big. That's the way I was doing it. If I could afford it, I'm gonna do it. Not knowing I was displeasing my creator, not knowing that he wasn't happy with me. And here I am, just going about my day, not thinking about him, not doing what he wants me to do, but I was doing as the Romans were doing. Didn't care a bit until he pricked my being one day. Until he got me to see otherwise. And now that I see it, I'm glad that I cannot unsee it. You know, my mother is here right now from the East Coast, and I love my mom, just like I'm sure many of you love your mom and your dad if they're still around. And my mom, she's raised me well, but she didn't know the truth. She raised me how to, care for others. The 6 commandments, how to love your neighbor as yourself. I did that. I was raised that way. Same thing with my dad. He raised me that way. Well, that's about the 3rd time that butterfly came whizzing by my face. But I do know, as much as my mom doesn't know this truth, I know somewhere deep down inside of her, she knows that what she was taught in Christianity isn't the truth. And I try to share with her. But you know what? Just like some of you, you might know people like this. My mom's idol is TV. Or you can say entertainment on her laptop or on her, her iPad. That's what it is. She loves her K-drama. She watches her Korean drama. So much so that when I call my mom sometimes when she's not here in Vegas and she's on the East Coast, I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? She goes, you know what I'm doing. I'm studying. I'm like, studying what? She says, Korean drama. And we just start laughing. But that's not a laughing matter when you think about it. Because she literally has made Korean drama her idol. She's placed that before everything, before her kids, before her grandkids, even before herself. She got to watch her K-pop, her K-drama. Yep, you're right, Lupe. It's so difficult. And when you see your mom, your parent, having an idol in their life, and you can't get them to stop looking at it. I mean, my mom's well in her 80s. Let me text my wife real quick. She just made it to work. Give me a second, everyone. All right. And so, like I was saying, my mom, she's well in her 80s, and she loves her some Korean drama. And I know if she doesn't change her ways, my mom is lost. My mom will be lost. Either Yahuwah's going to take her home early before all this stuff that's getting ready to happen is going to happen, or she's going to be here to witness this. But I hope maybe she's here to witness this so that she'll realize the stuff that I've been telling her and the family, that her son isn't crazy, that her son was truly hearing the truth, and he just wanted me to know the truth too. even if my mom doesn't follow, just to know that I wasn't lying to her. I think that's all I really want. I mean, I want her to be saved, don't get me wrong. But you know, reality is reality, and I'm just in reality. I'm not gonna think in a fanciful way, or fanciful way, however you say that. And then I also have some brothers and sister. None of them know the truth. Every time I talk about this stuff, I either upset them, they get mad at me. It changes our conversation. It changes our relationship. So if I talk about mundane things, they could care less. But when I get to talking about the truth, oh, they have a problem with that. They got a huge problem with that. They don't like that. And it's sad because, you know, I can't imagine what it's going to be like, nor do I want to have that separation from our Father. And not only to have that separation, but you're getting put into this lake of fire. Regardless if you're not going to be in there forever or if you're going to be extinct, the fact of the matter is that you're not going to exist in front of Yahuwah's face anymore. He won't answer your call. You won't get to enjoy life, regardless of what you think is going to happen. Either you're just totally exterminated, or if you're going to be living in this place called the lake of fire for the rest of eternity. Either way, it's not a great look. And I don't know about you, but that's not where I want to go, nor do I want any of my friends or family to go there. But everyone's going to make their own choices. Everyone's going to make their own decisions. It's just so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. Let me see where my battery life is here. Oh yeah, it's almost time for me to get off here in a little bit. I got to go charge her back up. So unfortunate, Mishpaka. But with that being said, we can't give up on them. We can't give up on them. We got to continue on doing what we're supposed to be doing. And we're going to continue to follow those laws. Remember, there are laws of conduct. It's how we conduct ourselves. It's not for salvation. The only reason why we can even attain salvation is because of the shedding blood of our Messiah. So it keeps us in right standing as we're doing the laws of conduct. So I'll be back on at true noon here on the West Coast, specifically geographically here in Vegas, which will be right around 12:30. And hope to see you then. We'll get into Palal at that time for those of us here on the West Coast. For those of you who don't know, you should be praying when the sun comes up, when the sun is at its zenith, what we call high noon, not 12 o'clock. Excuse me, I got people always saying to me, is that 12 o'clock? No, it's not 12 o'clock. You got to start thinking like this. You got to think outside the box, okay? If it's something that you are not using with the sun when it comes to timekeeping, then you're probably doing it because of man. So if you read something where someone tells you you're to pray at certain times, don't try to connect that or correlate it to your pagan timekeeping. Use exactly what Yahuwah has given us. Use the brain and use the orb in the sky.
That's all you got to do. Use your brain and use the orb in the sky. When he says to pray 3 times a day at sunrise, don't say in your brain, so are you saying 6 o'clock in the morning? Stop doing that. You're forcing man's paganism into Yah's worship. Don't do it. So when he says, rise early and pray, you're looking at the sun coming up. You know it's time to pray. When we're told to pray at midday, that's not talking about you don't bring in man's clock and say, oh, that's 12 o'clock. No, it's not 12 o'clock. It might be certain times of the year. You need to be using the sun, the S-U-N. When that sun is at that zenith, true noon, you can Google it. Google it. If you have to go and you don't want to use a sundial, Google what time is it on your pagan watch that is going to be true noon in your location, and it will tell you. What is true noon, and you put in your location. It'll tell you what the true noon is. It will not be 12 o'clock, guaranteed, unless it just so happened to be falling on that day, because it will fall on a noon time on certain areas of the earth at that particular time. But most of the time, it's not falling on that day because it changes every day. It changes every day. And then the last time that you pray during the day, not the night watches, during the day, is right after the sun goes beyond the horizon, where you don't see the sun, but you see the sunlight. That is called evening in the Hebrew tongue, Arab, or as we would say in the English, Arab. So I want to thank all of you for being here with me today. I'll be back on here in a little while. Let us pull before our Abba Yahuwah. Heavenly Father, we come before you in the mighty name of your Bane, Yahushua HaMashiach, giving you all praise, honor, and esteem. Abba, we ask that you would continue to use us. Continue to reveal yourself to us. Continue to teach us and guide us by your word, O Abba. May we not be guarded by men, but that we're guarded by you. Abba, may we continue to seek after your ways and after your thoughts, not our ways and our thoughts. Help us to be mindful of you throughout our day, O Abba. Go before us on this Yom. Help us to continue to share this message with others. May you open up a door for us to evangelize, be it with our friends and our family or even a stranger that may come our way. And give us the zeal. Look into your word. May we eat by every word that comes out and proceeds out of your mouth, O Abba Yahuwah. This is our Palah on this Yom, in this afternoon. In Yahusha's mighty name we Palah. Hallelujah, Yahuwah. Hallelujah, Yahuwah. And Hallelujah, Yahuwah. Amat. Rumamu Yahuwah. All right, Mishpachah. We will get together here soon. Yahuwah willing. My name is Ak Jimmy, also known as Brother Jimmy, and we are ambassadors of Yah. Shalom.